Is this GMT Master II 16710 worth keeping in my collection? And how does it compare to the modern version GMT? And what's wrong with my bracelet? All this and more on this week's episode. I keep going back and forth on this one. As I think about dialing down the size of my collection, this one keeps coming up as a candidate for the chopping block. And then I change my mind again and decide that I want to really keep this watch. But do I really like this watch for what it is objectively? Or am I just keeping it because it's an iconic Rolex and it fills a gap in my pre-ceramic collection? I'll walk through some of my likes and dislikes about it, and then try to make a decision about whether to keep this or maybe not. I've had this for about 3 years now, and I bought it pre-owned because it was discontinued by the time I bought it, and it did not come with the original papers, and I'm pretty sure this box was not the original box it came in because it's a large box and that's usually reserved for precious metals. There's a padded topper on top of it, and it comes with a brown hang tag instead of the green hang tag which comes with the current Rolex. This watch was from 2006 in excellent condition, and I paid a total of $11,654. I'm pretty particular about buying Rolex new from the authorized dealer, so this is a pretty big negative for me that this was secondhand, because I don't know where it came from, who owned it, and how it was worn, but by the condition of the watch, I think it was well taken care of. There's an old-fashioned booklet inside about the Rolex service process, and another booklet about how to take care of your Rolex. I decided to send it in to Rolex for service just for my peace of mind to check out the movement and overhaul the watch, and the bezel action was stiff, and I wanted to ask about if I could put it on a Jubilee bracelet. The watch came back looking great, almost brand new, but the bezel action was still stiff and they wouldn't change their bracelet out for me. But having it serviced under my name ties it even closer to me, so I think that's a big positive. And it's a relief that everything inside is genuine and working properly, and now I have an authentic service card. The movement is the Rolex caliber 3185, and about a year later in 2007 they switched to the 3186, which is more rare because just a couple years later they discontinued this entire reference number. On my calipers, I'm getting a case diameter of 39.6, thickness of 11.9, lug to lug of 46.8, and a weight of 121 grams with some links removed. One of my biggest negatives is that the bezel action is still stiff to turn even after having it serviced, especially going clockwise. It has 120 clicks per rotation, same as my pre-ceramic Submariner date, but it's just not very easy or pleasant to use. Compare that to the modern GMT Master II. This one has 24 stops per rotation. They're not actually clicks, but they just notch in at the next stop, and it's much more smooth and much easier to use. But I do love how that bezel looks. It has that classic colors of blue and red, and the aluminum gives it an extra character. It looks like it's shiny, but it's still restrained at the same time. It doesn't have that wet, glossy look of a ceramic bezel, and the numerals just look beautiful with that font. It just looks classic and old school. My bezel really hasn't faded much. It looks close to the original condition, but the proportion of the bezel and the dial, I think they match up just perfectly together. And the closer I look at the dial with the close-up shots, the more I like it and the more I appreciate the beauty of it. Operating the watch is made a little bit more difficult because of the small size of the crown. It's a little bit more difficult to grasp and turn, and I would have preferred that the crown was bigger and the same size as the Submariner. But setting the date is also cumbersome because you have to rotate the hour hand a full day before the date advances. So I normally just end up not setting the date and just setting the time. A big positive for me is the case design. It looks sleek and elegant, but it looks sporty at the same time. There's sharp edges and flat sides in all the right places, but also restrained curves in other areas. The case height is thinner than the Submariner, and it lies flatter on the wrist, so it's easier to dress up, but it's still a sports watch. And comparing it to the modern super case design, I still think the tapered lugs look a lot better than the chunkier lugs on the modern version. So all of this adds to the comfort on the wrist. It lies flatter on the wrist because it's not so thick, and it wears like a true 40mm or even a 39mm watch. So it's easier to dress up with the suit, and it can also be used with casual clothing for anyone with a smaller wrist. It can be hidden underneath the cuff of a shirt sleeve, and also because of the hollow center links of the bracelet, it feels lighter to wear on the wrist. I like wearing it here with casual chinos and a sweatshirt. It's a casual outfit, but the watch still fits in. I'm aware of the option of sourcing other bezel inserts and changing them out. You could just switch it out to a Coke bezel, a full black bezel, or maybe even a faded Pepsi bezel. So I've thought about that option, but just haven't explored that yet. So how is the bracelet on this watch? I think overall the bracelet is still in pretty good condition, considering that it's from 2006. My Submariner date is from 2005, and it has a pretty similar amount of stretch as this watch, and I take pretty good care of my Submariner. But it does have those hollow center links, which produce that jingling or rattling, which is unavoidable with the pre-ceramic models, and the modern Rolex have fixed that issue. Another problem with the bracelet has to do with the distribution of the links. I have a very small wrist, so I have about 3 links removed on this bracelet, but you should normally have more links left on the 12 o'clock side compared to the 6 o'clock side. So when you hold the watch up to the side, the clasp should lie parallel to the case. But in my case, there's not enough links on the 12 o'clock side, so that's pulling up on the clasp on that side. That means I need to add a link to the 12 o'clock side and remove one from the 6 o'clock side. But the problem is there's no more links to remove on the 6 o'clock side. Whatever's left are permanent links and cannot be removed. So what I'm left with is a bracelet that's too short on the 12 o'clock side, and that not only makes the clasp off center on the bottom of my wrist, but it tugs up or pulls up the watch head away from my eyes while I'm wearing it on the wrist. It's a very minor problem, but it's just something I noticed with this GMT, and it doesn't seem to be a problem on any of my other Rolex. I decided to change out the bracelet in favor of a leather strap, so that should fix the fit problem and also give the watch a totally new look at the same time. I taped up the lugs and used my Bergeon tool to remove the bracelet. I usually don't like to change out the bracelets too often because I'm always afraid of scratching the lugs. But this time the bracelet came off very easily, and I don't think I scratched the lugs at all. Here it is on the leather strap. I don't remember where I got this strap from, and there's no text on the bottom of the strap, so I don't know what brand it is, but it's a simple thin leather strap which has a slight texture, almost feels like a rough out leather, and the pin buckle is polished and also does not have any branding. It gives the watch a more casual look and makes it look even more vintage, and I think the dark brown goes well with the blue and the red. Normally with modern Rolex, you need to use a curved spring bar when putting on a leather strap because there's very little space between the spring bar and the case, and that will cause the leather to rub up against the case. But with this strap, the leather is pretty thin, so there's only slight chafing against the case. And you might notice there's extra space between the lugs where you can see the spring bar because this strap is a 19mm strap, and normally this watch head will take a 20mm strap. But I think this watch strap is fine. It's not very noticeable, and I think it just gives a little bit more vintage look to the watch. The benefits of having the steel bracelet on the GMT is that it looks more natural to the watch because it's an original part of the watch. It's more durable. You can take it out in the snow or the water, and it looks more dressy in general, so you can pair it up with more formal outfits. But my bracelet had a minor fit issue, so now I'm trying it out on this leather strap to see how it fits and also to change up the look of the watch. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer, the steel bracelet or the leather strap. For the watch itself, I'm not planning on selling it anytime soon, but I haven't yet decided whether it will stay with me long term. It's so nice to have a neo-vintage Pepsi GMT, but I need to get over the fact that it's a pre-owned watch. It's just a personal hang-up of mine, and I need to change my mindset about it. If I can do that, then this watch will stay in my long-term collection.